It began, as so many forgotten tales do, with a rumor whispered across centuries. Far beyond the reach of crowded cities, past the golden dunes that shift like living waves, there once stood a city that defied the desert itself. A place of fountains and music, of shining towers carved from pale stone, and streets lined with silver lamps that never went dark. They called it Iram, the city of pillars, but the sand called it home. The desert has a strange memory. It forgets quickly, yet keeps everything buried. Under the quiet hum of the wind, it hides entire worlds, the skeleton of a caravan, the faint shape of an old road, a fragment of pottery that once held perfume or wine. And somewhere beneath that endless sea of sand, the lost city waits, silent and patient, as if asleep. Imagine the sound of the desert at night. No birds, no rushing water, only the slow breathing of the earth. Each grain of sand, tiny and ancient, has traveled farther than any of us ever will. They whisper when the wind moves them, soft like silk against stone. Somewhere in that eternal hush, the first explorers set up camp, their lanterns flickering weakly against the vast dark. The fire cracked, sending tiny embers into the night sky, each one rising like a forgotten star. They were not the first to seek Iram. Old maps drawn in trembling hands had marked its place countless times before. Poets had sung of its beauty, merchants had sworn they saw its towers glimmer from afar, and mystics claimed the city appeared only to those the desert deemed worthy. But none who entered its sands ever returned unchanged. Some said they found nothing but endless dunes. Others spoke of lights at the horizon, moving like spirits in the night. And yet, every few decades, another traveler would feel the same pull, that quiet voice that says, "Go and see for yourself." The leader of this expedition was a quiet man named Harun al-Taib, a scholar from Damascus with a mind like a compass and eyes that burned with patient curiosity. He had spent years collecting fragments, stories, coordinates, and the cryptic notes of travelers who vanished into the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter. When people asked him why he believed, he would only smile and say, "Because the desert doesn't lie. It hides, but it never lies." As the night deepened, the camp settled into a rhythm, the soft hiss of the wind against the tents, the creak of ropes straining in the sand, the low hum of the camels breathing in their sleep. The moon rose round and distant, casting pale light across the dunes. Harun sat by the fading fire, his notebook open, ink frozen mid-thought. He could not shake the feeling that they were being watched not by men, but by something older. Something that had seen countless travelers come and go, and simply waited for them to join the silence beneath its surface. In his journal, he wrote only one line before the wind blew out the candle. The desert is not empty. It listens. At dawn, they began their journey again. Each step forward erased the one behind. The sand gave no memory of footprints. They walked for hours, guided only by the shadow of the sun and a compass needle that seemed to tremble more with each mile. The air shimmered with heat, and mirages bloomed on the horizon like ghosts of water. Still, they moved on, driven by something that felt less like ambition and more like destiny. By midday, the world was pure gold. The dunes rolled endlessly, each crest revealing another that seemed higher, brighter, more impossible to climb. Their supplies were heavy, their mouths dry, yet the silence was hypnotic. There was something about that silence, a stillness that seemed to speak. You could almost hear the pulse of the world beneath the sand, slow and steady, like a sleeping heart. When the sun began to fall, painting the horizon in shades of amber and rose, they saw it. At first, it was nothing, a trick of the light, a shadow that didn't move. But as they approached, the ground grew firm beneath their feet. The air shifted, and then the sand fell away to reveal a pattern, the faint curve of a wall, etched with strange, looping symbols no one recognized. Haroun knelt beside it, brushing the sand away with trembling fingers. It wasn't stone. It was smoother, almost like glass. And beneath it, faintly visible through the translucent layer, something gleamed, a reflection of the sun, or perhaps of something buried far deeper. He felt a thrill of fear and awe. This was no mirage. They had found the threshold. Night fell again quickly, as it does in the desert. The stars returned, sharp and countless, and the wind grew cold. The camp was silent, but Haroun could not sleep. He lay awake, staring at the dunes silhouetted against the horizon. And then he heard it, a sound faint as a breath, drifting through the air like a song. It wasn't the wind. It was lower, rhythmic, almost human. A voice, repeating something too soft to understand. He rose, following the sound, the sand cool beneath his feet. There, just beyond the edge of camp, stood what looked like an archway half buried, leaning at an angle, carved with the same swirling symbols as the glass wall. The air around it felt colder, as if the night itself drew back from that spot. Haroun reached out, tracing one of the carvings, and felt a pulse beneath his fingertips, a faint vibration, like the heartbeat of the earth. The whisper grew clearer then. It spoke a single word, Iram. The sound was gone the next moment, swallowed by the wind. Haroun stepped back, his heart pounding. He wanted to call for the others, but some quiet instinct told him not to. Instead, he returned to camp and wrote a second line in his journal. The city is still alive. The fire dimmed to embers. The stars turned slowly above. And beneath the dunes, something shifted just slightly, as if waking from a long dream. The morning came quietly, its light soft and golden as it spilled over the dunes. The desert seemed different now, less fast, somehow watching. When Haroun opened his eyes, he found the wind had covered most of the camp's tracks. Only the faintest curve of a tent rope and the gentle imprint of last night's fire remained, half buried, as though the earth itself was reclaiming what little it had offered. The others were still asleep, curled in their blankets, unaware of what Haroun had seen. He sat alone for a while, listening to the low hum of the horizon. The dream from the night before still lingered in his mind, though he couldn't tell if it had been a dream at all. He remembered the cold archway, the faint vibration in the stone, and the voice that had whispered the city's name. When he blinked, he could still see the glow beneath the sand. Perhaps it was his imagination, he thought. Or perhaps the desert had finally decided to show him the truth. By mid-morning, the heat had returned with quiet ferocity. The men packed their equipment, their movements slower than the day before. The dunes seemed to stretch farther now, the distance between each one growing wider, as if the world itself were expanding around them. Every sound was muted, the crunch of footsteps, the shuffle of rope, the creak of leather. Even the camels seemed subdued, their long shadows melting into the ground. It was as though everything living had agreed to whisper. They reached the site by noon. The sun hung high and merciless above them, burning the air until it trembled. Haroun led the way, his boots sinking into the soft surface as he brushed aside the sand that had returned overnight. The strange, glassy wall was still there, larger now, as if more of it had emerged while they slept. The symbols were clearer too, winding and curling like vines across the surface. One of the men, a young cartographer named Idris, pressed his ear against it and frowned. "It's warm," he said softly. Haroun nodded, though he already knew. The warmth didn't come from the sun. It came from within. As they dug, the glass-like layer gave way to something harder, darker. Stone, perhaps, but not like any stone they knew. When the first full slab was uncovered, they saw what appeared to be a staircase descending into the earth. The opening was narrow, barely wide enough for one man at a time, but the air that rose from it was cool, almost damp. It carried a faint scent, not of dust or decay, but of something clean. Rain, maybe, or jasmine. It shouldn't have been possible, not here. Haroun lit a lantern and looked down into the darkness. The flame flickered, bending toward the opening as if drawn in. Behind him, the others waited in silence. Finally, he took a breath and stepped forward, one hand gripping the rope, the other holding the light. The sand gave way beneath his boots, and the desert's heat vanished in an instant. The air was cold and still. Each step echoed faintly, the sound fading into a vast, unseen space below. He descended carefully, his fingers brushing smooth walls carved with patterns that glimmered faintly in the lantern light. They were beautiful, symmetrical, deliberate, and impossibly old. When he reached the bottom, he stopped. The chamber before him stretched wide and circular, the ceiling lost in shadow. In the center stood a single column, covered in the same strange writing, and on its surface, resting untouched, a shallow bowl filled with clear, unmoving water. Haroun approached it slowly. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. He leaned closer, and the surface of the water rippled, reflecting his face and another behind him. He spun around, heart racing, but there was no one there. Only the silence. Then, faintly, a voice not from the air, but from somewhere deeper inside his mind. It was gentle, rhythmic, and familiar. "You have found what should not be found." The words faded, leaving behind a stillness so complete it felt alive. The others called from above, their voices echoing down the passage. Haroun shook himself and turned away from the bowl. When he climbed back to the surface, the light nearly blinded him. He said nothing of what he'd seen, only that the path below seemed safe to explore further. But as he spoke, his hand trembled, and the sand around the opening shifted, as though it too were listening. That night, they set up camp closer to the site. No one spoke much. Even the smallest sound, the rattle of cookware, the faint murmur of wind, seemed to echo louder than before. Haroun sat apart, writing in his journal by candlelight. He no longer felt the thrill of discovery. What pulsed in his chest now was something quieter, heavier. Wonder mixed with unease. He had come seeking a city of wonder, but what he had found was something different. A heartbeat beneath the ground, and a presence that refused to be named. Before extinguishing the candle, he wrote one final line. "The desert remembers everything." When he lay down to rest, the dunes glowed faintly beneath the stars. And as sleep overtook him, he dreamed not of sand or stone, but of streets lined with gold, of laughter echoing through marble halls, and of a single, haunting melody carried on the wind. Somewhere, deep below the shifting earth, something ancient stirred. The city was not lost. It was waiting. The next morning began in silence. The wind had stopped entirely, and the desert lay still, as if holding its breath. When Haroun opened his eyes, he found the world tinted gold, not from the sun, but from the shimmer of fine dust that hung suspended in the air. It caught the light like mist, bending it into faint halos around every shape. Even the dunes seemed to hum, though no sound reached his ears. He rose quietly, every movement feeling deliberate, as though the desert itself was watching. The excavation began again at sunrise. The team had grown cautious. Every shovel of sand seemed to reveal something new: fragments of pottery, smooth stones carved with geometric marks, even the corner of a wall buried deep beneath. They moved carefully, their voices low, each man lost in his own thoughts. Haroun watched them, notebook in hand, his eyes tracing every contour of the site. He could feel the same pull as before, faint but insistent, like a thread tugging from below. The deeper they dug, the more the air seemed to change. Cooler, thicker, charged. By noon, the sun blazed fiercely overhead, yet none of them felt its heat anymore. The hole in the sand had grown large enough for 3 men to descend at once, lanterns flickering against the smooth stone below. Idris was the first to notice it, a faint vibration, not sound, but sensation. It pulsed through the soles of their boots, steady, like a heartbeat. The men exchanged uneasy glances, but no one spoke. They simply worked faster. Then, suddenly, a sound, faint, melodic, like wind passing through hollow glass. They froze. It came again, softer this time, a whisper of a note that drifted through the air before fading. It wasn't random, it was deliberate musical. Haroun's breath caught in his throat. The desert was singing. He stepped toward the opening and knelt. The melody grew clearer, echoing faintly up the shaft. Without hesitation, he descended again, his lantern trembling in his hand. As his boots touched the floor below, he saw that the faint water bowl from before had changed. The water inside rippled, even though the air was still. When he approached, the ripples became patterns, circles within circles, moving in time with the strange rhythm that filled the chamber. He reached out his hand, hesitating only for a moment before letting his fingertips brush the surface. The instant he did, the world seemed to shift. The air thickened, and the chamber glowed with a soft, inner light that pulsed in sync with the melody. The symbols on the walls came alive, gleaming faintly like stars. Images formed, not pictures, but impressions, towers of shining stone, markets filled with laughter, water glimmering through channels of silver. And then faces, countless faces, watching him from the walls. He stumbled back, his breath catching. The light dimmed, the rhythm faded, and the chamber returned to silence. He felt his knees, heart pounding. It hadn't felt like a vision. It had felt like memory. When he climbed back to the surface, his hands were trembling. The others gathered around, waiting for him to speak. But Haroun said only one thing: "There's something alive down there." That night, a sandstorm rose from the east, sudden, violent, and unlike any they had seen before. The air filled with grit and lightning, the sky swallowed by rolling clouds that glowed faintly red. The men secured the tents, shouting over the howl of the wind, their faces lit by flashes of light that seemed to come from below the ground as much as from the sky. Haroun stood at the edge of camp, his coat whipping against his legs, staring into the swirling darkness. For a moment, between gusts, he thought he saw something moving on the dunes, tall shapes, walking slowly, as though made of shadow and flame. Then they were gone. By dawn, the storm had passed. The camp was half buried, their tools scattered, their tents shredded. But the opening to the chamber below remained untouched. Not a grain of sand had shifted. It stood clean and open, like a wound in the earth. As the men worked to rebuild what they could, Haroun noticed something strange: footprints near the entrance. They weren't theirs. The prints were too narrow, too smooth, and led from the opening into the distance, straight toward the rising sun. He called Idris over. They both knelt, tracing the prints with their hands, and realized the sand was warm where they lay. "Someone's been here," Idris whispered. Haroun didn't answer. He was staring at the horizon, where the sunlight met the curve of the dunes. For just a second, he thought he saw the outline of a tower, faint, shimmering, and impossibly far away. That night, sleep did not come easily. The campfire burned low, its embers flickering in rhythm with the desert's heartbeat. Haroun lay awake, the journal open beside him, listening to the quiet. He could hear the wind shift through the dunes, carrying voices he almost recognized. They spoke in a language he didn't know, but the emotion in them was unmistakable: longing, sorrow, and something like invitation. He turned on his side, staring at the faint glow that still emanated from the direction of the opening. He wondered what lay deeper, beneath those ancient stones. Who had built them and why? And most of all, why now, after centuries of silence, was the city calling again? As his eyes grew heavy, he felt something change in the air, a pulse, faint but steady, in time with his heartbeat. It grew stronger, warmer, until he could almost feel the rhythm of the city beneath him. Then, faintly, just before sleep claimed him, he heard the melody again, distant, beautiful, and full of longing. The same melody that had haunted his dreams since he first arrived. Only this time, it wasn't coming from below. It was coming from the horizon. He sat up, staring into the darkness. And there, on the farthest dune, he saw it, a faint, golden light flickering just above the sand, pulsing like a heartbeat, growing brighter with each passing second. The light shimmered faintly on the horizon, pulsing with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Haroun stood frozen, the cool desert air pressing against his skin. It wasn't the flicker of fire or torchlight. It was softer, deeper, like moonlight trapped beneath water. He wanted to wake the others, to call them to witness what he was seeing, but something inside him told him to stay silent. The glow began to move, slow and deliberate, sliding across the dunes like a living thing. And then, just as the wind shifted, it vanished. He sat awake for hours after that, staring into the emptiness. When dawn came, he told no one. Instead, he marked the spot in his journal, a small circle drawn beside a single word: north. The day was spent recovering from the storm. Tents were mended, tools gathered, supplies rechecked. But even amid the work, something felt different. The air had changed heavier somehow, though no one could explain why. The sunlight seemed sharper, the shadows longer, and the silence between the men felt thick, filled with unspoken questions. By midday, Idris approached Haroun, his face pale. "There's something you should see," he said. He led him to the excavation site, where the wind had uncovered more of the buried structure overnight. The stairs they had found earlier were only the beginning. Now, beneath them, a vast stone platform stretched outward, the remnants of what might once have been a courtyard. At its center stood a single, half-buried column, and carved into it was a symbol Haroun had never seen before. It was shaped like an eye, surrounded by spiraling lines that curled outward in perfect symmetry. The edges of the carving still gleamed faintly, as though the stone itself resisted the erosion of time. Haroun knelt beside it, tracing the grooves with his fingertips. It felt warm, and not from the sun, but from within. Idris shifted uneasily. "Do you think it's part of a tomb?" Haroun didn't answer. He was staring at the symbol, lost in thought. As the sun began to fall, the men gathered for their evening meal. But the usual laughter and conversation were gone. They ate in silence, glancing occasionally toward the uncovered courtyard. Even the camels were restless, their eyes reflecting the firelight like shards of amber. When the wind finally began to move again, it carried with it a low, humming tone, not quite a voice, not quite a song, but something in between. Haroun stood and walked toward the site. The others followed reluctantly, drawn by curiosity and fear. As they approached, the humming grew louder. The symbol on the column began to glow faintly, its spirals shimmering as though alive. And then, without warning, the ground trembled. A deep vibration rolled through the sand, strong enough to shake loose dust from the tents and tools. The air shimmered, distorting the light, and a crack appeared along the base of the column. Haroun stumbled backward, shielding his eyes as a burst of light erupted from within the stone, silent, blinding, pure. When it faded, the courtyard had changed. The air smelled different. The sand around them had hardened into something smooth and glassy. And on the far side of the platform, where before there had been only dunes, stood a doorway. It wasn't carved or built. It was there, as if the desert had parted to reveal it. A perfect arch of dark stone, its surface etched with delicate lines that shimmered faintly in the fading light. Beyond it lay only darkness. No sound, no movement, just a silence that seemed endless. Idris whispered, "We should leave it." But Haroun didn't move. The pull, that quiet, insistent force, was stronger now, almost overwhelming. Without looking back, he stepped forward, crossing the courtyard until he stood before the archway. The air was cold here, colder than it should have been. When he reached out a hand, the stone beneath his palm felt alive, as if it were breathing. And then he heard it, faint, distant, unmistakable, the same melody from before. It was coming from the darkness beyond the doorway. He turned to the others. "I'm going in." The men shouted in protest, but Haroun had already stepped through. The moment he crossed the threshold, everything changed. The heat of the desert disappeared, replaced by cool air that smelled faintly of rain. The darkness shifted into color, faint golds, greens, and blues that shimmered like light beneath water. He walked forward slowly, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. The passage opened into a chamber unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were lined with crystal panels, each one filled with slow-moving streams of light. The ceiling arched high above him, its surface reflecting the faint glow like a sky full of frozen stars. In the center of the room stood a platform, circular and smooth, surrounded by 6 tall pillars. Each pillar bore the same symbol, the eye, carved deeply into its surface. But this time, the carvings were not still. They moved. Haroun watched in awe as the spirals turned slowly, the stone shifting like liquid. It was impossible, but there it was before him, alive, breathing, aware. He stepped closer, drawn to the center of the platform, and as he did, the lights within the walls began to brighten. The melody returned, soft and rhythmic, weaving through the air like wind through reeds. He closed his eyes, letting it fill his mind. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Forgot the desert, the storm, even his own name. All that existed was the song and the voice that seemed to rise from within it. "You have come far, Seeker." His eyes flew open. The voice wasn't human. It echoed from every surface, deep and melodic, as if the walls themselves were speaking. Haroun tried to answer, but no sound left his throat. The lights pulsed again, and the voice continued. "You seek what was lost, but the lost do not sleep. They wait." The air grew colder. The light dimmed and shadows began to move across the floor, shapes like people, walking, turning, gesturing, their movements slow and fluid. They formed around the platform, encircling Haroon. And then one of them looked up. He stumbled backward, his breath caught in his chest. The figure's eyes glowed faintly gold, the same color as the desert's light. It opened its mouth to speak, but no words came, only the faint hum of that haunting melody. The others joined in, one by one, until the entire chamber was filled with the soft, rhythmic sound. It wasn't frightening. It was beautiful. A song of sorrow. A song of remembering. Haroon felt tears in his eyes, though he couldn't say why. The shadows began to fade, the melody dissolving into silence. And then, once again, the voice spoke. You are part of the remembering now. The chamber went dark. The night had fallen completely now, and the once blue sky was a sea of black velvet speckled with cold, distant stars. The air was cool, almost still, except for the faint rustle of leaves whispering secrets to the wind. As you walk deeper into the forest, your lantern's dim glow trembles against the bark of ancient oaks. Shadows move in slow, lazy rhythms alive, yet silent. There's a sense of being watched, though not by eyes of malice. It feels more like the forest itself is aware of your presence, observing, curious, remembering. Ahead, you see the faint outline of something unusual, a stone structure rising between two massive trees. It's covered in moss, worn by time. As you step closer, the carvings become clearer. Spirals, animals, figures in dance. It's a monument of sorts, a relic of the people who once lived here. Perhaps it marked a meeting place, or maybe it was a resting ground for spirits who guarded the woods. The silence around it feels almost sacred. You set your lantern on the ground, watching the light spill across the carvings. For a brief moment, the shapes seem to move, stories told in flickering shadows. Hunters chasing deer. Women gathering under moonlight. A great fire burning in the center of a village. Then, slowly, everything fades back into stillness. The forest exhales, and you realize how deeply peaceful the moment is. Every sound, every breath, feels part of an older rhythm. The chirping of crickets becomes like a song, the creak of branches like a slow drumbeat. You close your eyes and listen. The longer you listen, the more you feel yourself slipping into a calm you didn't know you needed. When you open your eyes again, you notice something glowing faintly near your feet, a small pool of water, reflecting the starlight above. Its surface is so still that it looks like glass. As you kneel beside it, you see your own reflection melt into another, someone dressed in robes, holding the same lantern. Their face is calm, almost smiling. You blink, and the image fades. You're alone again, or maybe, not entirely. A sense of comfort washes over you. Whatever spirits dwell here, they do not wish you harm. They only wish to be remembered. As you continue your walk, the forest opens slightly, revealing a small clearing. In the center stands an ancient tree, massive and gnarled, its roots like frozen waves of wood flowing into the earth. It looks impossibly old, as if it's been here since the world first began to dream. The branches spread wide, cradling the night sky. Beneath it, the ground is soft, covered in layers of fallen leaves and faint traces of wildflowers. You sit beneath the tree, your back against the warm bark. For the first time tonight, you feel entirely safe. There's a faint hum, like the earth itself is breathing beneath you. Each heartbeat matches the rhythm of the forest. The more you breathe, the lighter you become. The worries of the day, the noise of the world, fade until they're nothing but distant echoes. You tilt your head back, staring through the branches, through the spaces where stars peek through. You could stay here forever, you think. And maybe, in a way, a part of you will. Somewhere far away, an owl calls, its sound deep and soothing. The forest responds with soft murmurs, the gentle sigh of leaves, the quiet shift of wind through grass. Everything feels connected. Every sound blends into the next until it becomes one long, slow lullaby. You close your eyes again. The story of the forest begins to unfold in your mind, not as words, but as sensations. You see seasons changing, leaves growing and falling, rain nourishing the soil, roots stretching deeper into the earth. You see the first humans who discovered this place, building fires, singing songs, carving the stones you saw earlier. You see them fade, and the forest reclaim what was once theirs. And now you sit here, a quiet witness to centuries that have passed like whispers on the wind. The tree above you groans softly, as if acknowledging your presence. You rest a hand on its roots, feeling a faint vibration. It's like a heartbeat, slow and ancient. You whisper a thank you, unsure to whom or what, but it feels right. You remain there, your mind adrift. The world grows softer, slower. Even your breath seems to blend into the night. The stars shimmer faintly through the branches, and for a moment, you swear they move, swirling gently, like they're part of the forest's dream. As your thoughts grow quieter, one lingers faintly, a comforting idea that maybe peace isn't something to find, but something to remember. Something that was always there, waiting beneath the noise of everything else. You smile softly, eyes half closed, as the forest hums around you. The night continues, calm and endless. And as you drift further into stillness, the faint sound of leaves brushing against each other becomes a melody soft, slow, familiar. Sleep begins to take you gently, not as a sudden fall, but as a gentle tide drawing you inward. The forest fades, the stars blur, and the world becomes warm and weightless. You're not sure if the story is ending or just beginning, but it doesn't matter anymore. You're home. The morning light arrives slowly, as if unsure whether to disturb the quiet peace of the forest. A pale silver glow touches the tips of the trees, painting the leaves with faint color. The air is cool, carrying with it the earthy scent of moss, wood, and dew. You awaken beneath the great tree, the same ancient one that sheltered you through the night. For a moment, you don't move. You simply listen to the wind whispering through the branches, to the distant song of a bird greeting the dawn, to the steady rhythm of your own breath. The forest feels different in the morning, alive in a softer way. You stand slowly, brushing the leaves from your clothes, and look around. The clearing glows faintly golden as the sun rises higher, revealing hidden details you hadn't noticed before. Tiny mushrooms cling to the roots of the tree. Ferns glisten with drops of water like scattered gems. You feel a strange gratitude, as though the forest has allowed you to rest, and now gently invites you to continue your journey. You pick up your lantern, though you no longer need its light. Its glass is cold, fogged slightly from the chill of the night. A faint reflection of your face stares back, calm, content, peaceful. You take a deep breath and begin walking once again, deeper into the woods, where the morning mist still lingers between the trees like breath caught in time. As you walk, you notice something remarkable. The forest, though familiar, feels subtly changed. The path seems clearer now, as if guiding you. The trees stand in quiet formation, and in the distance, through the mist, you glimpse movement, faint, graceful, fleeting. A figure? A shadow? It disappears before you can be sure, leaving only the rustle of branches in its wake. You continue, curiosity replacing the last traces of sleep. The sound of running water draws you toward a small stream, its surface rippling softly in the early light. You kneel beside it, cupping your hands and letting the cool water flow through your fingers. The stream's gentle murmur fills the air, rhythmic, eternal. You follow it upstream, your steps light, until the sound deepens into a low, steady roar. Before you stands a waterfall, tall, veiled in mist, tumbling into a pool so clear you can see the stones at the bottom. Sunlight filters through the falling water, casting shifting patterns of light on the rocks. You feel drawn closer, as if the waterfall is speaking in a language you almost understand. Its voice is powerful yet soothing, ancient yet alive. You step into the shallow edge of the pool, letting the cool water brush your ankles. It feels like touching the heartbeat of the earth itself. The mist wraps around you, cool and clean. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, letting the sound fill you completely. There's something cleansing about it, like it's washing away the weight of everything you've carried. You realize that you don't need to know where this journey leads. You only need to follow the rhythm of it, step by step, sound by sound. After a while, you move to the edge of the waterfall and sit on a smooth stone. Droplets of water sparkle on your hands like fragments of light. The forest around you is alive with gentle movement, leaves trembling, water flowing, life whispering in 1,000 small voices. You feel deeply, beautifully connected to it all. It's in that quiet moment that you remember something you once heard, a story about places that remember the footsteps of every soul who walks them. Maybe this forest remembers you now too. Maybe your presence, your breath, your quiet wonder will become part of its memory. You smile softly at the thought. A breeze stirs, carrying with it the faintest scent of wildflowers. Somewhere above, sunlight catches in the falling water, creating a small rainbow that shimmers and fades. You sit perfectly still, watching it dance, a fleeting reminder that beauty often exists only in moments like this, fragile and temporary, but unforgettable. The day drifts by gently. Time doesn't seem to move here. It stretches and folds in on itself, turning seconds into something timeless. You lie back on the stone, eyes half closed, listening to the music of water and wind. It feels like a lullaby from the world itself, soothing, unhurried, endless. Your thoughts drift freely now, soft and weightless. You think about journeys, not the ones measured in miles, but the quiet ones that happen inside you. The slow, tender process of remembering you are beneath all the noise. The waterfall roars softly beside you, a reminder that even in constant motion, there can be calm. You breathe deeply again. The forest hums around you, a living symphony of gentle sounds. You can almost feel the pulse of it beneath your fingertips, ancient, steady, kind. You close your eyes once more, letting yourself drift on the sound. It's hard to tell where the world ends and you begin. You are the sound of the water, the whisper of the leaves, the warmth of the light through the mist. In the distance, faintly, a bell rings low, resonant, mysterious. You open your eyes, but the forest remains still. The sound echoes softly through the trees, fading into the horizon. You rise slowly, drawn to it, unsure if it's real or just part of the dream you've wandered into. The waterfall continues to sing behind you, a promise that peace is never truly lost, only waiting to be found again. As you walk toward the sound, the forest shifts once more, the trees closer together, the air thicker, the light dimming slightly. It feels like you're walking deeper into the heart of something sacred. The bell rings again, softer now, as if inviting you closer. And so you go. Each step lighter than the last, each breath deeper, slower. You move through the mist, through time, through the quiet space between dreams and waking. You don't need to know where the path leads. All that matters is that you're here, walking, breathing, listening, part of the story the world tells itself every time it dreams. The forest waits, the bell hums faintly, and your heart beats in rhythm with it all, slow, steady, at peace. The bell's echo fades, leaving behind a deep and sacred silence, the kind that seems to hum just beneath the surface of the world. You pause for a moment, your breath slow, your heart calm. The air feels thicker now, as though you've stepped through a veil into a place untouched by time. Around you, the forest grows denser, older. The trunks of the trees twist upward like pillars of an ancient temple, their bark marked with strange patterns that look almost like writing. You brush your hand along one of them, feeling the rough texture under your fingers. It's warm, warmer than it should be. The tree seems alive in a way that goes beyond the ordinary. You can almost feel it breathing, pulsing faintly beneath your touch. The bell rings again, distant and soft, as if guiding you deeper still. You follow the sound, moving carefully through the forest. The ground beneath your feet becomes softer, covered in a thick carpet of moss. It muffles your steps completely, and soon, even the birds are silent. The only sound left is your own quiet breathing and the faint ringing that calls from somewhere ahead. You begin to see shapes in the mist, faint outlines that shift and change with every breath of wind. Stones, perhaps, or ruins. As you draw closer, the mist begins to clear. What lies before you takes your breath away. A vast, circular clearing opens in the forest, filled with ancient stones arranged in a perfect ring. Some are tall and narrow, others low and broad, but all are covered in carvings, spirals, stars, lines that intersect and wind around each other. In the very center stands a single stone, taller than the rest, smooth and dark like obsidian. It hums faintly, almost inaudibly, a vibration you feel more than hear. The bell's sound seems to come from it, not from above, but from within. You take a step forward. The air feels charged now, shimmering faintly, as if the world itself is holding its breath. There's something sacred here, something older than memory. You don't know why, but you feel you've been led to this place for a reason. You reach out, your hand trembling slightly, and place your palm against the central stone. The surface is impossibly smooth, cool at first, then warm, then pulsing with gentle rhythm. Your mind fills with a rush of sensations. The sound of wind over empty plains, the shimmer of moonlight on still water, the weight of centuries pressing softly against your thoughts. For a heartbeat, you feel everything, every echo, every whisper, every story that has ever passed through this land. Then, slowly, it fades. The humming quiets. The air settles. You open your eyes, unsure of how much time has passed. The forest looks the same, yet somehow lighter. The mist drifts lazily between the stones, glowing faintly in the sunlight that filters through the branches above. You exhale, the breath deep and cleansing. You realize you've been holding it for a long time. You sit down beside the stone, resting your back against it. The ground is soft, the moss warm beneath you. You feel a deep peace settle over you, not the fragile calm of silence, but a solid, steady serenity that fills every corner of your being. You tilt your head back and watch the light dance across the tops of the stones. Dust motes drift lazily in the air, glowing like tiny stars. You think about the people who might have built this place, who they were, what they believed, why they created something so enduring. Maybe it wasn't meant as a monument at all, but a reminder, a message left for those who would come after. That the world is alive. That silence is not emptiness, but connection. That peace is something we return to, not something we find for the first time. A faint breeze passes through the clearing, stirring the moss and leaves. You close your eyes and let it brush against your skin, a whisper of comfort. Somewhere, far above, a bird sings a single, clear note, the first sound you've heard in a long while. It echoes beautifully in the stillness. You find yourself smiling, and then, quietly, you hear the bell again. But this time, it's softer, not a summons, but a farewell. The sound fades gently, absorbed by the forest, until all that remains is the slow rhythm of your breathing and the steady pulse of the earth beneath you. You rise slowly, giving one last glance to the circle of stones. It feels wrong to turn your back, so you bow your head slightly in silent respect before stepping away. As you leave the clearing, the mist gathers again, closing behind you as if sealing the place back into its timeless slumber. The forest greets you once more, the rustling leaves, the scent of pine and earth, the faraway whisper of water. You begin walking again, feeling lighter, freer. Each step feels softer than the last, each breath more effortless. You know you've been changed somehow, that you can't quite explain how or why. As the path winds upward, you catch a glimpse of sunlight breaking through the canopy. The light spills across your face, warm and golden, and for a moment, everything feels still. You pause, taking in the quiet beauty of it all. If someone were to find you now, they'd see only a traveler walking through a quiet forest. But inside, something vast and calm hums quietly, the echo of the bell, the breath of the earth, the peace of an ancient place still alive within you. And as the light deepens and the day drifts slowly forward, you continue walking unhurried, at peace, part of the eternal rhythm that binds the world together. Somewhere in the distance, the forest sighs a long, soft exhale, as if thanking you for listening. The forest opens gently before you, revealing a sloping valley bathed in golden light. The air is warmer here, softer, carrying the scent of wild herbs and faint traces of rain. The mist that once clung to the trees is gone, leaving the world clear and vivid, the blue of the sky stretching endlessly above, the hills rippling like quiet waves across the horizon. You pause at the edge of a ridge, taking it in. For a long moment, you simply breathe, watching sunlight glide across the earth like a living thing. You follow the slope downward, your steps light on the soft earth. The sound of distant water reaches your ears again, not a waterfall this time, but the slow, steady murmur of a river winding through the valley. Its voice is low, calm, eternal. You make your way toward it, guided by the shimmering line of silver that threads through the land below. When you reach it, you find the river wide and slow-moving, its surface reflecting the sky like glass. A small wooden bridge stretches across it, old but sturdy, covered in moss. You stop at its edge, resting your hands on the worn railing. Beneath you, the current moves steadily, never rushing, never still. You can see smooth stones below the surface, shifting faintly as the water flows over them. There's something mesmerizing about it, the way the river moves without ever seeming to hurry. You lean closer, watching the ripples catch the sunlight. They shimmer like threads of light weaving through the water, like time itself passing quietly onward. You realize that, in a way, you're watching the same river that has flowed here for centuries, unchanged, patient, eternal. You cross the bridge slowly, listening to the soft creak of the wood beneath your feet. On the other side, the ground rises gently toward a meadow filled with tall grass. The wind moves through it like invisible hands, setting the blades swaying in long, rhythmic waves. It looks like the earth is breathing. You wade into it, letting the grass brush against your fingertips as you walk. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint sound of laughter, not loud or sharp, but soft and melodic, like echoes of a memory. You stop and listen. The sound drifts on the wind, coming and going until it fades completely. You can't tell if it was real or just your mind weaving stories out of the stillness. You continue forward until you reach the heart of the meadow, where a single tree stands, tall and ancient, its branches wide and full. You sit beneath it, the shade cool and comforting. The grass rustles softly around you, and the river hums faintly in the distance. You close your eyes and lean against the trunk. It's then that you notice a faint carving in the bark beside you. You trace it with your fingers, a spiral, carefully etched, similar to the markings you saw on the stones in the forest. Beneath it, faint lines form words worn by time. The earth remembers. You sit very still. The wind sighs through the grass. You think about what those words mean. Maybe the forest, the river, the stones, maybe all of it remembers. Every step, every breath, every quiet moment left behind by those who came before. And maybe, in its own silent way, the earth remembers you too. You tilt your head back and watch the sky through the branches. Clouds drift lazily above, slow and soft. The sun filters through the leaves, casting dappled shadows that move like water over your skin. Time seems to stretch, not forward, not backward, but outward, like ripples in a still pond. You feel weightless, free. The wind shifts again, bringing with it the faint scent of smoke, wood smoke, faint and distant. You open your eyes and glance toward the horizon. Far off, on the other side of the river, you can just make out a small wisp of gray rising into the sky. A village, perhaps. A place where the sound of voices might echo between wooden walls, where fires burn and people dream. For the first time in what feels like days, you feel the faint pull of curiosity toward others, toward warmth, light, and shared stories. You rise, brushing the grass from your hands, and begin walking again. The meadow hums softly behind you, the river murmurs its endless song, and the tree watches silently as you go. The path winds gently toward the smoke. As you walk, the sound of birds returns, one by one at first, then many, filling the air with a kind of music you hadn't realized you'd missed. It feels like the world is waking up around you. The trail narrows as it leads you into a grove of willows. Their long branches sway gently in the breeze, their leaves whispering secrets you can't quite catch. Between them, you spot a faint glow, warm, orange, flickering. The smell of smoke is stronger now, mingled with something else, bread, perhaps, or stew. When you step through the grove, you see it. A small village nestled at the edge of the river. Wooden cottages, thatched roofs, narrow paths winding between them. Lanterns hang from doorways, their light dancing in the breeze. People move quietly, their voices low and calm, the rhythm of their lives unhurried and sure. You stand at the edge of the village, watching. No one seems to notice you, yet somehow you feel welcome. The glow of the fires, the smell of warm food, the hum of gentle laughter, it all feels achingly familiar, as if you've been here before, long ago in another dream. You take a step forward, then another. The soft dirt of the road feels warm beneath your feet. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then settles. A woman hums a song while tending a pot over an open flame. The melody drifts through the air, simple and beautiful. For the first time since your journey began, you feel the faint warmth of belonging. And as you move deeper into the village, the air hums with quiet peace, as if this place, like the forest and the stones, has been waiting for you to arrive. The village feels alive in a quiet, steady way, not bustling, not loud, but filled with the soft rhythm of human life. The flicker of lanterns dances along wooden walls, and every window glows with golden warmth. As you walk slowly down the narrow path, the scent of burning wood mixes with the faint aroma of fresh bread. The evening sky above deepens into a soft indigo, dotted with the first shy stars of night. You pass a group of villagers gathered around a long wooden table. Their faces glow in the lantern light, their laughter gentle and low. One man is carving a piece of wood, shaping it into what looks like a small bird. Another hums a tune, the same melody you heard earlier, drifting through the willow grove. You pause for a moment, listening. The sound feels ancient, like something passed down through countless generations. A woman looks up and notices you. Her eyes are kind, her smile soft. She nods once, as though she's been expecting you all along, and gestures toward the fire. Without a word, she offers you a bowl of warm stew. The scent fills the air, herbs, vegetables, and something smoky and sweet. You accept it quietly, your hands grateful for the heat. You sit beside the fire. The flames crackle softly, their glow casting shifting shadows on the ground. For the first time in what feels like forever, you feel the warmth of a fire on your skin, the taste of food on your tongue, the soft murmur of voices around you. It feels human, comforting. The man carving the bird glances up at you and smiles. Long road, he asks in a slow, easy tone. You nod, unsure how to answer. He studies you for a moment, then simply says, "The road always brings who it needs." Then, as if that explains everything, he returns to his carving. The villagers speak little, but their silence is not cold. It's full, the kind of quiet that exists between people who understand one another without words. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, and let the sounds of the night settle around you. The crackle of firewood, the soft murmur of wind, the rustle of leaves beyond the edge of the village. After a while, the woman who served you food begins to sing. Her voice is low, smooth, and full of warmth. The song is in a language you don't recognize, but the melody carries something universal, a lullaby perhaps. A song of home, of safety, of peace. The others hum along, and soon the entire square is filled with a soft, dreamlike harmony. You close your eyes for a moment and feel yourself drifting. The song wraps around you like a blanket. Its rhythm is gentle as the river. You can almost feel the stars above moving slowly through the sky, tracing their quiet paths. The path along the river bends gently, winding through hills that rise softly like waves frozen in time. The night air is calm, scented faintly with pine and wildflowers, carrying the subtle promise of morning yet to come. Your steps are slow, unhurried, in rhythm with the gentle murmur of the river beside you. Every sound, every movement seems part of a single, quiet symphony, the whisper of wind, the distant croak of a frog, the faint rustle of leaves under the touch of unseen creatures. You pause at a bend where the water widens, forming a serene pool that mirrors the stars above perfectly. Kneeling beside it, you watch the ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection just slightly before it settles back into glass. It's mesmerizing, hypnotic even, and for a moment, all thoughts of time and place slip away. You are not rushing. You are not striving. You are simply present. A gentle breeze brushes your face, carrying with it a faint melody, the song you heard in the village, soft and slow. You close your eyes, letting it fill you completely, a lullaby woven from the world itself. You imagine the faces of those you've passed along the journey, the villagers, the trees, the stones, the river, and the forest. Each one has shared a piece of the story, each one a quiet companion on this long, winding path. As you rise and continue walking along the riverbank, the landscape shifts subtly. Hills give way to a wide meadow blanketed with soft grass. The moonlight touches it, silver and gentle, and the scent of the earth is rich and comforting. Here, you feel the world holding you, cradling you, encouraging your steps without urging. A small bridge appears ahead, simple and wooden, crossing a narrowing of the river. You step onto it slowly, feeling the gentle sway beneath your feet. Below, the water flows endlessly, carrying with it reflections of moonlight and stars. You notice faint movement beneath the surface, a fish, perhaps, gliding silently through the cool water. It disappears, leaving only the serene ripples behind. The bridge leads you to a grove of ancient trees, their trunks wide and knotted, their branches forming a protective canopy above. Fireflies hover in the air, faint glimmers of gold flickering like tiny lanterns suspended in the night. You walk carefully among them, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot the only sound you make besides your own quiet breath. In the center of the grove stands a single stone altar, low and smooth, bathed in pale moonlight. It feels sacred, untouched, as if the world has been holding this space for those who truly listen. You step closer, brushing your hands along the cool surface. The stone hums faintly, subtle enough that you can feel it more than hear it, vibrating in harmony with the rhythm of your own heartbeat. You sit cross-legged beside it, letting the calm wash over you. Every sensation, the breeze, the soft earth, the hum of the stone, the gentle light flows into your being. You feel a sense of completeness, as if the journey you've taken, the paths you've followed, and the quiet moments you've witnessed have been leading to this exact peace. Somewhere, far above, the first hints of dawn begin to brush the horizon. The sky shifts, colors bleeding softly into one another, deep indigo to pale lavender, then hints of gold and peach. You watch it, breath slow, heart calm, body relaxed. The world feels infinite yet safe. The river continues to murmur, the fireflies glow softly, and the stone beneath you holds the quiet, eternal memory of every step you've taken. A gentle thought drifts into your mind. The journey is not over. It never ends. It simply continues in quiet moments, in slow steps, in deep breaths. And you are part of it. Always. You rise, brushing the soft grass from your legs, and begin walking again. The wooden bird rests in your hand, smooth and warm, a reminder of the places you've been and the peace you've found. You step forward without hesitation, moving through the grove, across the meadow, along the river, into the soft, glowing dawn. And as the sunlight spreads, washing over the world in a gentle embrace, you realize that the journey has changed you. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but quietly, deeply. You are lighter. You are present. You are at peace. The forest, the river, the meadow, the village, and every quiet, living thing you've encountered hum with the memory of your passage. And somewhere in the distance, a bird sings a final, soft note, a gentle farewell, a reminder that every ending is also a beginning. You pause for a moment, closing your eyes and breathing deeply. The warmth of the sun, the coolness of the air, the hum of life around you, all of it together feels like home.